Welcome back. In this video we're going to go ahead and model a different object. Now the object for our scene that we're going to model to keep with our military theme here is a bullet. We're going to be modeling a rifle round, the 5.56er, and we're going to go ahead and create that right now in XSI. So hit Alt and 6 to open up an image clip viewer, go to File, Import. You should have an image called Bullet. It's a JPEG. Just go ahead and open that up, and here's our image of our bullet. It's a pretty good shot of a bullet from the side view. We can see it in detail, and we can go ahead and start modeling it. But instead of trying to guess the proportions by simply looking at this and trying to match it as closely as possible in our viewport, what we can do is use a more accurate method of modeling. And this is great when you have an image like this one that's a dead-on side view of whatever object it is that you're modeling. So let's close this image clip viewer, and let me just show you what it is I'm talking about. Let's go to, we can use either the right or the front viewport, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to go ahead and use the right because it's a side view. I'm going to go over here to where it says wireframe, open up our shading options, and at the bottom you'll see this option down here, rotoscopy options. Click on that to open up a PPG. What we can do is click on new, then go to, actually we can probably go here to new from source. The reason that you can open this up by either going to new from file or new from source. If you go new from source, it's going to pull up whatever clips you've opened. Because we open the bullet image, we can actually pick it up right here. XSI sort of remembers it because it keeps it as an image clip in your scene. So let's go ahead and click right here to open it up. If not, you can just go to new from file and you can click it here, same thing. Okay, so there's the image. We can see it in the PPG. And that's good enough. We don't have to mess around with any other options. This is great. Let's close that PPG, and there we go, we're set up. But wait a minute, Jack, nothing happened. That's because we just have to turn on a little option. Let's click over here to our shading options again, and down here where it says rotoscope, let's check that on by clicking on it. Wow, there we go. Our image is now in the background. And if we go ahead and zoom out in this viewport, you can see the image back there. It's stuck down there, so when we move our camera around, it stays in its own space. It doesn't fly around everywhere. This is great for modeling, well, in this case, this bullet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this simply by hitting F12 on the keyboard there to open up this, to maximize this side camera view here. And one thing to note is that you want to make sure that you're constantly saving your scenes. You don't want Murphy's Law kicking in and throwing all your work away. Okay, so here's the bullet. Now, what would be the best shape to start modeling this bullet? Well, let's go to primitive, polygon mesh, and have a look. Cone probably isn't going to be the greatest, neither is cube. Cylinder. Cylinder matches up with the shape of the bullet pretty good. So I'm going to click on cylinder, and with this PPG, let me see. Let me go ahead and hit F12 so I could see my camera viewport over here. Switch to shaded view. Okay. What I want to do is knock the base subdivisions down to 1 and the V subdivisions down to 1 as well. Now right now this is a default 8-sided cylinder. That's good enough. I'm going to stick with an 8-sided cylinder. Believe me, that's going to be more than enough geometry to create this object. So let's close that PPG. We don't need it at the moment. Okay, here we go. We're going to start modeling this thing. What we can do is we can grab right here in between these viewports. You notice if you hover your mouse right on top of this border, you see the mouse changes to a different cursor with 2 arrows pointing left and right. Simply click and drag to the left to go ahead and make the most out of these 2 views over here. Okay, so there's our bullet and here's our cylinder. Let's start modeling. With the cylinder selected, let's activate the scale tool. You can do that by hitting X on the keyboard or hitting the S button here in the MCP. What you want to do is move your mouse cursor in between the blue and the red boxes to constrain the scaling to only the Z and the X axis. So let's scale it so it scales down. And what I'm going to do is down here in this view, I'm going to switch from wireframe to shaded view. That way I can see the cylinder while I work. Okay, I can see I need to scale it out, scale the width out a little bit more to match up with the bullet. Okay, right there, it's matching up pretty good with the bullet. Let's focus on this lower part right here. So right now, it's about the same diameter of the bullet. Let's go down here, swing around to the bottom of the cylinder. I'm going to turn off the grid by hitting G on the keyboard. I don't need it right now, at least in this camera viewport. In the side view, it's actually not really helping too much, so I'm going to turn it off in the side view as well. And that actually looks much better like this. So if the grid's useful, sometimes you might not want to look at it, so that's how you turn it off, G on the keyboard. Okay, what I'm going to do is switch to polygon mode with raycasting using U on the keyboard. I'm going to select these lower polygons down here. I'm going to activate the move tool using V on the keyboard, V for Victor, or hitting T over here to activate the translate tool in the MCP. And I'm just going to grab and pull these polygons downward like this, right there. Now, where do I want to move them to? I don't want to move them all the way down. I want to move them to about right here. The reason is, right about here, there's a groove. Right here is a straight edge. It goes straight, 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 stops. Then there's a slant of about 45 degrees right here. Then it goes down again. Then it slants another 45 degrees, and then it goes down again. So we're going to go down to about here, and then we're going to go down 45 degrees. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. We're going to go ahead and hit Control D to extrude. And using the move tool, I'm going to move downward a little bit to the end of the 45-degree incline right there. Then I'm going to switch to the scale tool, and making sure that global mode and COG are activated, I'm going to go ahead and scale that down just a bit like that. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to hit Control D to extrude again, and I'm going to move downward a little bit like this, right about here. And I'm going to hit Control D again, and I'm going to scale outward to about here, and then I'm going to move that down to about right there, and maybe a little bit more scaling. Actually, no, right there was pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to hit Control D to extrude again, and I'm going to pull that downward like this, and I'm going to stop right there. And maybe move that up a little bit right there. Well, I'm not going to get too picky with it. As long as you get the idea and you understand what in the world's going on, that's really what matters. So let's go up to the top of the cylinder, select the top polygons in raycasting mode by using U on the keyboard, and let's move these polygons down. Let's move them to about right here, and then we're going to hit Control D to extrude them, move them up to about here, and then we're going to scale them in a bit like this. You can see that they scale in, they kind of taper in like that. And then we're going to hit Control D to extrude them back up like so. And then we're going to leave those polygons alone right there. Okay, so there's basically the shell casing of this bullet. But right now it's in low res polygon form. So let's switch to sub Ds. Use the plus key on the number pad of your keyboard and hit it a few times to go ahead and smooth this out. And we can see that, oh, it lost pretty much all the shape. Pretty bad. Hit Control and the plus key again to go ahead and activate the wireframe cage. Now what we have to do is do a little bit of cleanup. We have to come in here and start adding edges and more geometry to tighten up the curvature of this sub D object. So let's go ahead and do that. This is very simple to do. Hit E on the keyboard to switch to edge mode. Then just drag a selection in between this area here to select all of these edges right here. And you can see in my camera viewport I have all those edges selected. This is very important. Now right click on the object and then go to split edges with split control, and then use the ratio slider to bring this down. Now looking in this right viewport, you want this edge to come really close to this one down here. So move it down as close as possible. If you see that it's difficult to manipulate because it moves really close and the slider kind of just jumps to really high values very easily, hold down Shift while you do this, and it gives you very refined control of the slider. So I'm going to move this to about right here's good. I'm going to close that PPG. Okay, so now I can start to see this is coming out. Now I'm going to hit E on the keyboard, switch to edge mode again, and I'm going to go ahead and drag select these edges here. Make sure you only get this ring of edges right here in the middle. Now, right click on the object and use the split edges with split control tool again. And we're going to bring this down to about right here. So basically, it's getting very, very close to this bottom edge right there. Let's close the PPG. Again, select these edges right here. Right click, go to split edges with split control. And then what we're going to do is and make sure you're constantly saving throughout this process. It's very, very important.